This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 78 of Retired Racehorse Radio on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, Cashel Company, American Harvest, and Wintec Saddles. Retired Racehorse Radio is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse. Brought to you in cooperation with the Retired Racehorse Project and New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program.
Today, we're chatting with Terri Berwanger, who's a former exercise rider turned sport horse breeder, as she offers her perspective on the race life to the sport side of things for horses. We feature our third Making the Makeover rider, Katrina Natwick, and we're going to introduce New Vocations a little differently today, so stay tuned to meet our adoptable horse of the week. Kyle Rolfus is our listener of the week. If you'd like to be our listener of the week, make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Now back to the show.
And they're off on Retired Racehorse Radio, the podcast that is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse.
This is Joy Orr in Detroit, Michigan.
And this is Kristen Kovach-Bentley in Jamestown, New York, and you're listening to Retired Racehorse Radio.
Kristen, how are you enjoying our second snow?
Ugh, that was...
Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, who knows by now?
Yeah, my husband has a great aunt who tells me that, snow needs to fall on the daffodils 3 times, and then it's officially spring. And I've lost count now. I think we're up to 3, so that should be it.
Hopefully it's the end of it. I always look at it back to my track and field days way back when, and I always remember the last track meet was around the first week of May, and it snowed every single time. Every year for 6 years as I did this. I competed in college too. And I'm like, it's just a constant. It's my life now. I've accepted it. So once we get to mid-May, I know spring has officially started, and then we have summer in like 4 weeks.
Yeah. And then we'll be complaining about how hot it is. And you and I are both like on the northern track. So I think you and I get probably the worst of it, but
yeah, we get the nice humidity, the super giant fuzzy okay, I shouldn't complain about that. The South, you really win for the mosquito size, and I'm so sorry, y'all. I am so sorry you're going through that. I will stop complaining. But yeah, the fly season's definitely coming, but I feel good about it. Like, I'm excited to get back on my horse. I did get injured this last week. Shocker. It's been this episode every time that Joy gets injured. It's the new show we're doing.
It'll be a recurring segment, Joy's injury of the week.
How did Joy get injured this episode? So recovering from a back injury, but super excited to start working with my horse again and hopefully get her into a couple shows, ideally at the end of May, but if we have to start in June, that's what we do. How about you?
I'm about on track for the same. Our first show on the calendar is like mid to end of May. And this year it's going to be the standardbred. So hang on for that ride.
Okay. So we're going to have a thoroughbred and a standardbred to watch this year. That's going to be really fun. I know I was debating. I have a big goal of trying to get Astrid by the end of the year to do at least one pre-Caprilli competition. And I don't know if you're familiar with what that is.
Nope, but it sounds really, really cool.
It sounds like
pasta.
Much cooler than it probably is. I wish. That sounds delicious. So it's a dressage test that has jumps in it. My horse is very attracted to poles and jumps and ways like as she sees someone putting the course up, she follows them to memorize said course and then beelines for every pole, even if we're not even a part of that exercise for the day. So I found this is a way where we both can maybe have something we want. She has plates in her front legs. So I don't really think a jumping career is the long-term route for her, but the jumps are low enough in this where she can do something that really interests her and perks her curiosity while I still get to do dressage, something I love, very near and dear to my heart. And hopefully we'll both have some fun with it, but we can hopefully get one competition in just to try it out. It probably won't be till fall, but that's my big goal for the year.
Oh, that sounds awesome. It sounds like a great goal and like a nice, meet each other in the middle.
Yeah, I love that there's really something for everyone in the horse world. It's pretty cool that there's so much versatility and so much creativity so that every horse can do something they like to do.
Nice. Well, good luck. Yeah. Keep us posted.
Same for you. So you're taking your standardbred. What will you be doing with him?
Oh gosh. Some of it's going to depend on how the rest of April goes. So I've barely ridden this month, and I'm sure you're probably in the same boat. Not having a ring and no indoor has made this month super challenging. And I kind of saw that coming. I was like, I think April's going to be way tougher than March. Like I can ride in the snow, but once it thaws and it's muddy, it's way, way harder because I don't want to tear up, my grazing ground by riding on it.
It's hard on their legs,
Right. Yeah. Like I don't need to have you slopping through the mud to satisfy my own vanity so we can go horse show. So if I can get them loping consistently, we'll try more of the classes that would involve loping. But otherwise, I'm just going to pick and choose my classes very carefully. We can still work a cow walking, trotting, and then, racking or pacing or whatever else he sort of throws in there because he's not super consistent yet with the trot all the time. So we'll do a little bit of very basic cow work. I'd like to at least get him into the trail schooling, and I might, just eat some entry money and walk and trot our way through the classes that would normally have loping in them just to get him in the ring. Because ultimately my goal with him is to go to the Standardbred National Show at the end of July. But I don't want that to be his first show. So I want to make sure that he goes to a couple of overnight shows first. And this ranch series we go to is super friendly, really green horse friendly, very tolerant of non-stock breeds for a ranch series. And that was where, Jopper and I won 2 buckles last year in the Open. So I think at this point now they're like super friendly to non-stock breeds since we came in as the thoroughbred invader from the north and won all their prizes and buckles. So that was really cool. Definitely will not be starting out with quite the same level of athletic and trained animal as I have in Jobber. So it's just going to be, a go have fun year, get our feet wet, hang out. It's a really, really nice group of folks to camp with all weekend. So we were just looking forward to having a good time and taking some of the pressure off because I spent a lot of time last year chasing points. So in some ways with the Standardbred with Little Wes, it's going to be a little easier because we're just going to go to have fun and hopefully build on him.
I don't know if easier is the right word, but definitely less going, pressure. Yeah. So we'll both taking some new challenges. For sure. Yeah. We'll both have some new challenges with our horses this year, but it should be really fun. And I hope everyone's excited to follow it. I'm definitely excited to follow what you do with him. And I'm excited to see where Astor goes. So, but we should definitely talk about how we like to prep for shows in a future episode. But one of the things I like to use for prep is proper nutrition. And a great group to look at that for is our premier sponsor, Kentucky Performance Products.
She swallowed hard as they walked into the start box. She could feel his muscles tense under her leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great ride. She didn't have to ask. He galloped out of the box and across the field toward their first training level course. His ears pricked. Her heart pounded. He attacked each obstacle with confidence, clearing them with room to spare. A huge smile broke out on her face as she crossed through the finish flags. She leaned forward and buried her face in his neck. Their bond of love and trust blocked out all else. This love story is brought to you by Elevate. Research proven to have superior bioavailability. Elevate supplies the essential vitamin E often missing from the equine diet. Its all-natural formula supports healthy muscle and nerve functions. The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Call 859-873-2974 or visit kppusa.com to order today.
Kristen, I'm super excited to introduce our next guest, Terri Berwanger. I met her through a mutual friend, and from the first call I had with her, I'm like, immediately, we need to get her on the show. She's amazing. She's got so much experience from the racetrack and into the sport horse world. She's galloped racehorses for Nick Zito and Wayne Lucas. She's bred sport horses in Ireland. She even worked with a starting and rehab program in Ireland too. And she's worked for Hilltop Farm. If anyone knows Hilltop Farm, they're like chef's kiss in the sport horse world. So Terri, well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you on the show.
I'm really excited to be here.
We are too. I mean, I don't even know where to begin because you are a wealth of knowledge. We could easily dedicate a full episode to you, but I'll start with the simplest of questions. I'd love to know just the brief, how you got involved with horses.
It started when I was a child. So we're talking like 3, 4, I think you start with pony rides. And then a neighbor had horses and she just started to take me with her when she went to the farm, and she gave me lessons. So that's where it all started, Mrs. Bottorff, actually. So And I'm still friends with her daughter, Jane, to this day. So yeah, that's where it all started.
I love it. Starting young. I feel like we all get the bug when we're little kids for sure. And it tends to stick with us and becomes a very expensive habit that we all adopt.
It does. Exactly.
Absolutely. So from that, you started with Pony Club. When did it transition into thoroughbreds? Because I'm like, how do we go from Pony Club to galloping racehorses?
Okay, well, to be honest, we were not like a lot of families. We just didn't really have the money to do. Like, I wanted to show the A circuit. I mean, that's what you want to do when you're a child and you show hunters and that kind of stuff. And that's what you want to be. And very few people can be, and that's okay. So when I was 16, I did a summer at Pimlico as a hot walker. So that's how and I sent in a resume and everything, and it was hilarious. I worked for Greg Wilson, and he took me under his wing, and he didn't let anybody talk to me. He was just mind your P's and Q's, come in, do your work, and you go home, basically. And yeah, from there, it just kind of went on. I was a hot walker. And then I wanted to learn how to gallop. And I was at Finger Lakes, actually, as a groom, and Wayne Lucas had a runner there. And Randy Bradshaw was the assistant at the time. And to make extra money, I went over to the barn and I asked if I could walk the horse after the race. They said, sure. And then he told me to come on to Kentucky. And if you want to learn how to gallop after I think it was the Breeders' Cup was that year at Churchill Downs. So it would have been 88. And he said, after that, we'll take you to the farm in San Diego and you can learn to gallop. And that's how it started.
Did you find the transition from everything you learned from Pony Club and riding, trying to go to A circuits to galloping a big transition? What did you find was the hardest change?
Well, to be fair, it felt like you were just ludicrously fast. So, I can remember, you're always going to probably get run off with. And that's why you go to a farm. So I can remember the first time it happened and everything seemed so loud. And it wasn't really that fast in retrospect, but yeah, so that was kind of difficult. But then you learn leverage, and then it becomes really easy. Like an eventing course, to me, is a heck of a lot more difficult than galloping a tough racehorse. It just is. So, yeah.
That's definitely an interesting perspective that I would not put in my head. But then again, that's the sport horse side. That's what I've grown up in. To me, eventing scares the living snot out of me. I'm a dressage rider. I stick to that one phase. But
I thought it was really tough till I went to Ireland. And they're like, oh, we're just going to school a little cross country course. And I nearly peed my pants. And they're like, the kids do this one. This is the kids course. And I'm like, okay,
Ireland's a different animal.
Oh, they're nuts over there. Yeah. I remember schooling cross country in Ireland and I was like, hi, I ride Western. And they're like, great. And it was definitely at least three, we were dropping into water. I was like, what am I doing? Yeah. And they're like, good job. Yes. Keep on, carry on. How did you end up in Ireland? What brought you over to Ireland in the first place?
Marriage.
Oh, all right.
It'll do it.
That'll do it.
Yes, that'll do it. Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, he's a really great guy. We did end up getting divorced, but we're still friends. And yeah, we were just wrong for each other. So, but he's a person that I did a lot of my sport horse stuff with over there. He would start all the horses by doing the groundwork. And I was the one that got on them. And the groundwork that he did made them very easy to ride. So have to give him props.
Yeah. Well, good team while it lasted, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So you were doing sport horses over there, and on the show, we constantly are talking about the second careers of these retired racehorses. So it's kind of interesting to have you on the show as the human side of that. It's like you kind of did that same second career going from the track into the sport horse side. When you made that switch, how do you feel your experiences galloping affected how you work with the horses as they transition into sport horses?
Well, the racehorses have seen everything. So they're very easy to, in my opinion. Now, I don't worry about them when I'm going past cars or you're going past anything kind of scary because they have seen it. So my biggest thing is go on or start as you mean to go on. So if you want to ride past scary things, then you have to ride with confidence. And these racehorses are, they kind of feel like if you're a little bit apprehensive, they're going to be like, I wonder what's going on. So if you stay quiet with them, they're really good. So, I mean, especially the ones in Ireland, like those horses have seen everything. Like if you watch the races on TV, a lot of the jump races, they're going by cattle. So there's sheep in the infield. Like you don't have to worry about too many things, especially with the ones in Ireland. But the ones in America, they've seen cars, they've seen, busy. There's not much you have to worry about.
I would say that is not an opinion we hear often. I mean, obviously talking to other thoroughbred lovers, standard bred lovers, they're going to have similar to what you're saying, but people who are just getting into or considering adopting, they get the stereotypes of they're super hot, they're super reactive, they're spooky constantly.
Yeah, they're sheltered. Yeah, they never see anything. And,
Yes. Having a very controlled environment.
And a lot of times people are like, oh, you have to feed them a lot. And I didn't find that as long as they had like a lot of forage. They have a lot of forage, good quality hay, if they're being turned out, and turnout really is important. I think the ones in Europe are used to more turnout than would say American horses, but they do get used to it in time. So if you have turnout, good forage, they don't need a lot of food. And that can be a mistake too, as well as getting them too fit for the job. If you need to go over a 2-foot course at the weekend, they don't need to be ridden an hour 6 days a week. They just don't. So that's the other thing too. Don't get them too fit.
Yeah, I've made that mistake in the past for sure.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, that's a huge stereotype we hear of like thoroughbreds need to be ridden every day or otherwise they're maniacs. And I'm like, my horse is ridden maybe twice a week and is a giant cinnamon roll who gets meat sweats when she sees the saddle. She's like, oh gosh, cardio. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. But see, in my breeding, I used a thoroughbred mare. She was my foundation mare, but she was bred. She's what you call a national hunt thoroughbred. So she's bred for steeplechase. Most people wouldn't even know the breeding because she's by Broken Hearted out of a Carlingford Castle mare. So that's very old national hunt breeding. And there's a lot of stamina there. Like the one warm-blood mare that I had, Abba, or her registered name was Breathtaking, like she never drew a deep breath. And when she was in training, I kept saying to her trainer, don't ride her, like every day for an hour because you're going to end up with a horse that's just too fit. And he just didn't believe me. But finally, one day he was like, I finally get it. And like, you don't have to ride him like a cold blood, like kind of more Irish draft or a horse with little blood. They take a lot of riding to stay fit. With the thoroughbred in there, you don't have to do that. So that's the other thing.
It's interesting that you mentioned that actually, because I have an Irish draft sport horse at my farm right now. And he is the spookiest booger. And he's like the size, he's the shape and color of a marshmallow. And I'm a little worried if I get him super fit, he's going to stay that same level of spooky, but then will be fit enough to actually like run off with me. So, but the thoroughbreds aren't like that. They might get a little hot if they're fresh, but then after that, they're like, this is normal, whatever. And good old Gandalf, he'll see something and is like, oh my goodness, what is that? And then you got to talk him off the ledge a bit. So
it's okay. You're going to be fine. Yeah. The thoroughbreds, they just aren't. Yeah.
So now, and you mentioned you brought thoroughbred blood into your breeding program. What else were you crossing in for the sport horses?
Well, I used KWPN stallions to start. So that was the start of it for me. And because it was in Ireland, then those foals would have main book foal papers. So they were registered KWPN main foal book. So that was appealing to me, because sometimes with the Irish Sport Horse or the Irish Horse Board, they wouldn't approve the stallions I was using till later on. So I was getting a full book from the KWPN where I was going to get into a lower book with the Irish Sport Horse. And also at the time, the Irish Horse Board used to annoy me because you couldn't name your horses until they were 4. And with all the other registries, I could name them when they were foals, which I very much wanted to do. So, but the horse board has changed all that now. It's completely different. So when you have a filly and she gets a main mare book for the KWPN or main foal book, that's more, valuable than a lower book in the Irish Sport Horse. Of course, now they've done away with all that and everything is Erkend now over there. So she can be, or she's not around anymore, but she could have gone to any registry except for like Holstein or any of the closed registries and had foals. So yeah, that's why I kind of did it that way. Then my third or second generation, all the babies ended up in the States, which is surprising because it was a thoroughbred dam line. And everyone told me, you'll never sell anything out of a thoroughbred dam line to America, where we have all thoroughbred dam lines. But I did. And my last one was a Connemara KWPN thoroughbred. And he's still in Ireland, and he's 4 this year. So I have to make some decisions on what he's going to do. But yeah.
I love it.
The breeding chat is so fascinating to me because we've looked into this a little bit through the Retired Racehorse Project, like how people are bringing that thoroughbred blood in to refine
I love it on the dam
or
to add endurance or athleticism, like to get a result. I think if anything, it just really adds value to thoroughbreds coming off the track of how they can have that career in breeding.
Yeah, it's a totally different career step, right?
Yeah, I look at the mares all the time, like just on canter and that kind of stuff, just always looking for one. Not that I'd be starting breeding anytime soon, but I hope to do it again. But yeah, I like the thoroughbred on the dam side. I think it brings more.
Why do you have a preference on the dam side than the sire?
I just think it brings more heart. I think it brings more of the good qualities of the mare. I mean, yeah, not every mare is going to bring exactly what you want. I was very lucky with Stella, who was my foundation mare, that she bred the same type over and over, which made it very easy to pick a stallion for her. So she really stamped herself. And it's great when stallions stamp themselves, but that doesn't help me as a breeder with my mare. Like I don't want to use the same stallion every time. So I'd rather have a stamping mare than a stamping, go use a stamping.
That makes sense.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And I mean, I'm a mare person, so I'm just like, woo, girl power. I love this. But
yeah,
I think it's very interesting to hear. And I mean, you hear it constantly, even out of people who prefer geldings. A good mare is gold. Like you just can't beat it. They are just the top of the line if you get that solid mare. Yeah. My dad was in breeding as well and always taught me that is like a good mare is like, that is your treasure. That is your gem of the barn.
Yeah. Yeah. Stella, she's still in Ireland. She is 23 this year. Oh. She's living her best life. She raised Caleb, who was the last one. He's the Connemara cross. And so that's grandma. But when I had to put his mother down, she raised him for there because he was only 5.5 weeks old. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was moving and it was just a lot that year. But at any rate, like it was great because she raised him and she put up with no nonsense. So a lot of time with orphans, you can get one that's just a little spoiled. And I just couldn't let that happen. So, but that wasn't a problem because grandma, she had some rules. And yeah, so he grew up pretty normal. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, Terri, I would love to have you back because I think it would be great to kind of talk about your perspective of U.S. racing standards versus what was in Ireland and the trends you saw in rehab. I'd love to just bring you back on to discuss that, but we are out of time.
Sure.
Before I let you go, I would love to know, is there a horse that you got to gallop that really made an impression? You like, who was your favorite racehorse you got to exercise on the track?
I would have to say probably Mr. Greeley. I just loved him. He was just so much fun. Yeah.
I love it.
There's always just casually throw that out. Oh, just Mr. Greeley. It's
just
fine.
Mr. Greeley.
I love Mr. Greeley. He was just so cool. I mean, there was so many, but yes, him and another horse, Indian Warrior, which nobody will ever heard of because he just wasn't much. But in the end, he was one of my favorite horses. So yeah.
I love it. You got to ride a celebrity. That's great. The dream for most of us.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to come back. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Terri, thank you so much for joining us. And we will definitely have you back on the show. If anyone has any questions that they might have for you, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. And yeah, I think I'm Terri Elizabeth and Mr. Greeley is my profile picture. So, yeah. So if they want to message me on Facebook. Yeah.
Awesome. We will be sure to include that in the show notes if anyone has any questions for Terri. Thank you again. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
You too.
Spring is here and it's time to get organized. Cashel Company has everything you need to get your barn, tack room, and trailer spick and span before show season begins. From stall organizers, gear bags, hooks, brushes, and everything in between, Cashel Company's got your back for your pre-show organizing needs. To stay up to date with the latest products and news, follow Cashel Company on Facebook and Instagram. And to find their products, visit an authorized dealer or cashelcompany.com. All right, Joy. So we are back with the Making the Makeover segment, and I'm super excited to introduce our third trainer in the Making the Makeover series. Today we have Katrina Natwick with us. She's a horse trainer and instructor competing for the first time in the 2022 Thoroughbred Makeover. She runs her own training business, which is called Whole Horse Performance. She strives to bring harmony and confidence to horses and riders through intention-based training. And she wears a lot of different hats in that business. So I'm really excited to talk to her and see what's coming up this year with her makeover horse. So Katrina, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I took a sneak peek at your makeover application, and you have experience in like 1,000 different disciplines. So tell us a little bit about your horsey background. Like, how did you get started and what brought you to where you are now?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I grew up in Montana, and in Montana, there's like a lot of different types of horse disciplines. There's not a lot of English stuff, but there's a lot of Western, there's a lot of trail riding. And so I grew up pretty much like most crazy horse girls do, like bareback on my horse, like up and down hills and hanging out with my horses and like my best friends doing night rides and things like that. So I really grew up like just as that crazy horse girl. I was really fortunate to be introduced to a barn that did a lot of natural horsemanship and relationship-based training from the beginning. And so like I never had the like competition mindset right away, which I'm a very competitive person by nature. So that was a little bit of an interesting dynamic. But yeah, I grew up in Montana, riding my horse in the mountains, pretty much doing a lot of natural horsemanship foundation-based training. And then I got involved in Pony Club in my early teens. And then that kind of brought me to where I am now today, if that makes sense. So
amazing. I got to say, I'm very envious of like, I have this very heartland visual of like you riding your horse through the mountains. It's very beautiful and majestic. And I'm like, meanwhile, I'm in Michigan, snow up to my knees, like just trying to get my horse to like go faster than a trot.
Well, we do have snow up to our knees in Montana. So
I guess that's true. That's true. But it's such a picturesque version of the horse girl story. I think most of us can relate to that. Most of us aren't growing up in the A circuit barns and kind of having that early competition start. We start with the fun things and then we learn about competition later on. And I think
it breaks us.
And then it breaks our souls slowly. But I think it's really interesting that you started in a natural horsemanship barn. That's not very common. I feel like natural horsemanship is finally getting the press it deserves these days of thinking more about horse psychology and coming at things in a more, I don't love the word holistic, but I'm going to use it for the sense, more holistic manner. Tell us about, the person who kind of taught you about that. And you mentioned that you're very competitive. It was a bit of a transition. Was it just a slower pace, or what made it a transition for you and maybe changed how you looked at horses?
I honestly think because I never saw it any other way. Like I was never introduced to horses. Like I loved horses growing up, but I actually didn't have my first horse until I was 12. My only experience with horses was natural horsemanship and was reading horses and their body language and what they were telling me and having it being a communication line and like a conversation. And so I never thought of it any different way. Like, I mean, I feel like a lot of people who are in the competitive world also do the same thing, but to me, it was on a different level. Like I went so much slower with my horses. I also competed in dog agility when I was younger. And like, it was different with the dog agility than it was with the horses. Like to me, the horses were so much more important with how slow I took it than with the dogs. I was like, oh, like they've got it, just go for it and see how it works out. So I was really, my first horse, actually, that was probably the biggest, like, what's the word for it? Like influence on like my education, because her owner had her since she was a baby, since she was a foal. And so for the first 6 months of me owning, her owner was right there with me at the same barn. And so she was able to transfer all of that education over of everything she had done with her through natural horsemanship and through psychology-based training. And that's like what I grew up on. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it absolutely makes sense. And a very rare experience. I think most of us would love to like have that background of the horses we get. It's a lot of times it's at blank slate. You're not really sure what they've been through, and you kind of have to figure out the pieces as you go. Mm-hmm. I have to ask, and we'll get into how you were drawn to the Thoroughbred Makeover, but I'm curious, as you're mentioning, you take a slower approach. Do you feel any type of pressure with kind of this 9-month window to bring a horse along that you don't have that background story on?
Actually not that much. So I was just talking about this with my best friend, like probably a couple hours ago. Like I actually haven't gotten on my makeover horse. I've had her since last July, and she had some medical issues and stuff. And so she was turned out in the pasture. But since the December 1st, I have only done entirely groundwork with her. So we've done liberty stuff and tricks and a lot of groundwork building to riding, but I haven't gotten on her. And I was telling my friend, I think it's kind of weird in some senses, but I don't feel pressured to get on her. It's like there's some pressure, but not. I'm able to. Sorry, I'm trying to word this. I don't feel like I need to necessarily get on her right now, because it's like I'm gonna do at the makeover what she's ready for, and like she's done all this amazing stuff on the ground. So like maybe I don't get on her at the makeover and I just do the freestyle. So I don't feel a ton of pressure with that. So
I love this like very zen approach you have to this, or so it seems, that you're taking it at the horse's pace, and like what will happen in October will happen. That is like such a good, mature, like, you know, what we always say, stay in your lane approach to the makeover. So well done. You've already won basically at this point. So what drew you to the Thoroughbred Makeover and thoroughbreds in general? This is your first time at the makeover for sure. Is this your first thoroughbred too?
Yeah, so this is actually the first thoroughbred that I've owned. I've worked with many over the years, and I've always loved them and thought they were super cool. But I just never had the opportunity, being in Montana, to like actually get a horse off the track, because they're few and far between out there. So when I moved to Texas, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of close to all these racetracks within 10 hours. And so it might be the opportunity. But yeah, so as far as the Retired Racehorse Project and the makeover goes in general, like I always loved watching it. I grew up watching like Amy Bowers and Lindsay Partridge and all of what they do with horses, and I like absolutely love it. And I always kind of had it in the back of my mind as it's something that I would be interested in doing, but it was never something like that was right on the front door that I'm like, okay, I can totally do this right now. So, but I was actually, I can remember the moment that I decided to do the 2022 makeover. And I was sitting in my friend's living room, and we were watching Fallon Taylor's YouTube channel. It was like an evening. I'm also a photographer. So I was actually in Idaho photographing a USDF horse show, and I was staying with her, and we were just kind of winding down over the night. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that looks like so much fun. And like, I should do that. And then I turned to her and was like, I'm going to do that. And that was kind of when I had decided to do the makeover. But yeah, so.
I love that. And like Fallon did us such a service by participating, because she has such a following, you know, and I think a lot of people, it put the makeover on the map for a lot of folks. So that's
especially
so cool.
in the Western disciplines.
Yes. Yeah,
for sure.
So definitely freestyle is on your list. Yes. What else? I mean, you're going to let the horse kind of dictate what else is coming down the pike, but tell us about the horse. What is she like? I see her name is Larissa, which I think is super.
Oh, well, I love her name. She came with it, and I was like, I'm definitely going to keep it because it's really sweet and it absolutely fits her. She's kind of a princess. But so I picked her up last July, and she's a 4-year-old mare, and she's probably about 16.3 hands. I haven't actually put a stick on her right now, but from like comparing her to other horses, I think she's 16.3. She's super sweet and very loving, so that I wasn't looking for a horse when I actually met her. I was going to wait a few more months before I started searching for my makeover project. And she kind of fell in my lap because a friend of mine sent me a picture and was like, hey, do you want a project? Like, I'm going to get this other horse and they have this second thoroughbred mare. Like, would you want her? And the picture was absolutely horrendous. Like, she looked like she was like super butt high, and she was tied to the trailer. She had wide eyes. Like, I still have the picture. It looks terrible. And I really wasn't interested. I was like, yeah, no. Like, I want a horse hopefully to event eventually, and that's probably not going to be the one. And I pulled up because I went with her just to have fun, because in Texas during the summertime, there's like nothing you can do outside in the middle of the day. So I went with her just to go look and just to have something to do. And I pulled up into the driveway and I looked in the pasture and I was like, who is that? Like, which horse is that? Because she was so stunning. And I it did not look anything like her picture. So she put her head in my chest when I was like hanging out with her and petting her, and she had great feet and her body was totally different than what the picture looked like. And so I took her home 2 days later.
Oh, I love that. You got like reverse catfished by a horse.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we have an episode on this with another HRN host, Kayla Bentley, who came on and she's like, the picture matters. Get good, high quality photos because it matters. And this is a great story of that.
No, it totally is. So anyway, I wish I would have brought her home that night, but I think my husband would have killed me without asking. So yeah. So that's how I met her and got her. And then like fast forward a couple weeks later, because I turned her out in the pasture because I think her last race had been like 2 or 3 weeks before. So she hadn't had a ton of letdown time. And it was in the middle of the summer and I was busy with other clients. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to turn her in the pasture. I'll do basic grooming and groundwork stuff with her just to make sure she's a solid citizen for the barn staff. But then I'll just kind of let her be a horse because she was 3.5. And she came up lame like 2 or 3 weeks after I turned her out. And so I thought I had pulled her shoes. So I figured, okay, it probably has an abscess. So I soaked it for like 4 or 5 days. And then she just wasn't like, it wasn't blowing the abscess. She wasn't getting any better. I couldn't really pinpoint where it was in her body. And so I had the vet out and the vet took a like maybe 2 or 3 minute look at her and was like, I think this horse has EPM. So that was really devastating, but we got the blood test done and we were going to just wait and see what the numbers were. And it came back extremely high, like off the charts. And so that was kind of our start of our journey. And at that point, I didn't even actually know that she was eligible for the makeover. I actually thought that this is why you need to look at the rules, because I actually thought that she was ineligible. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep putting the time into her because this one's really special. And so I started treating her. And then like 2 months later, I found out she was eligible. So that was really exciting. So the vet's really hopeful that she has made a full recovery. So we're just working on rehab now. And I'm using the Equiband and doing a lot of strength training and biomechanics training to help her strengthen her top line and her hind end. So hopefully she'll have a long career.
This is so cool. I'm like so excited to follow this journey because you're not just prepping for the makeover, you're overcoming a pretty significant illness. So
yeah. And that's pretty, I think we're seeing it more and more, especially, we're seeing changes in the weather. We're seeing a lot more horses being diagnosed with this, unfortunately. So she's definitely going to be a horse that I think a lot of people will want to follow to have some hope and follow how you rehabbed and getting her to where she's going to be.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I hope she's inspirational to some people because it was really devastating when I found out. I was so excited for her. And then I knew nothing about it. I mean, I knew of EPM, but like, I didn't know the extent of it. And it affects so many horses so differently. So,
right. Yeah. It's such a mixed bag, but it seems like more and more horses are coming back from it and still having, good, successful careers.
Thank goodness for science and good vets. Let's say
yes. Amen to that.
Katrina, I know we're coming close to time. I'd love to know, like, what is the next step? Like, what do you have coming up for you and Larissa that we can, follow or look forward to in the next few weeks?
So I'm actually taking her to her first show. We have a super awesome, like a dressage society here in Central Texas. And they put on some really awesome little mini schooling shows. And so I'm going to be taking her to her first show on May 14th. And we're doing the non-musical freestyle. So it's
fun.
I really don't have to do anything, but it's going to be her first like off-property experience with me and being able to work on stuff in a show environment. So I'm really excited about that. And then hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll probably get on her. So
that's super exciting. And we wish you the best of luck. If people want to follow you, where's the best place they can do that?
Probably Facebook. I also have Instagram and TikTok, but I don't use those as much. So WHP Equestrian or Whole Horse Performance should lead people to my pages. And I'll post usually post updates on Facebook more frequently.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to follow along, and so can everybody else.
Yeah, I just liked it. Now I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm going to follow this. Awesome. Thank you so much, Katrina.
Thank you. It was really nice to talk to you guys.
What if adding just one product to your feed regimen could help your horse recover faster after a show, get relief from inflammation, reduce his nerves, and ease his digestion? If any of those benefits sound appealing to you, then check out American Harvest Premium Hemp Extracts and Equine Hemp Pellets. American Harvest natural equine hemp pellets are vet formulated and produced from natural hemp. The palatable pellet formula is manufactured with potent raw CBD using no chemical processing, so your horse will love the taste as much as you'll love the benefits. Look for the full line of American Harvest products at your local equine shop, any Hubbard dealer, or online at store.alltech.com. And right now, American Harvest is offering an exclusive giveaway for you, our loyal Horse Radio Network listeners. One lucky winner will receive a free 90-day supply of American Harvest equine products. Check out today's show notes for details on how to enter. Well, Kristen, it is that time where we talk about new vocations. And normally we would have Leandra Cooper on with us, but sadly she is not able to join us for this episode. So I thought it would be fun to have our producer, George, who I think is safe to say is not a horse person, pick our adoptable horse of the week from the New Vocations website. And George, I'm going to invite you on really quick. Can you tell us what horse you picked for us?
First off, Joy, thank you so much for having me. Second off, I appreciate this very, very intelligent counter you've done. Because when I picked this horse, I was like, wow, this horse is really beautiful. And I kind of really like the look of this horse. But man, I cannot pronounce that name. So I was kind of hoping first. But hey, you know what? I'll take a good crack at it. I think it's supposed to be Green Grass and High Times. Maybe a reference to the song by the Outlaws. I don't know. But it's a big mash of that.
Yes, it looks like Green Grass Hit Times.
Yeah, it looks like somebody's tried to like put it on a vanity plate, kind of a deal.
It was very creative. Yeah. But
I like it. It was a fun team building exercise to figure that one out. So
exactly. So Green Grass and High Times is our adoptable horse of the week, a 15-2 all black standard bred, just a tiny little bit of white on her back leg there, but they call her a real life black beauty. Her name is Ty in the barn, and she is described as a sweet gem who loves a chill and easy life and loves to pose for the camera. So for all of you Instagrammers and TikTokers who love your horses and your photos, Ty is probably a great horse for you. She is a low-level horse. They recommend her for 4-H and walk trot or a ring horse or occasional trail partner. But Kristen, you coming from the Western side, I'm on the English side. I thought it'd be fun if we could pick kind of a career based on how she is, based like what you would recommend her for Western, and I'll give my recommendations for English.
Absolutely. So I love this mare's like relaxed top line. This to me, she just screams like a ranch type horse. Mm. Of course, ranch horse is what I do. So I look at just about everything and think it can be ranch. But, you know, she's super mellow through her top line. She looks like she just carries her pole to level up her withers. So you're not going to be fighting, you know, some of those standardbreds like to carry themselves pretty much up and down. And it doesn't look like she's that kind of lady. Like she looks pretty mellow. Like she's just going to hang out, meander down the trail, meander across the pasture, walk and trot her way around the ring. So to me, it helps that, of course, they have her stood up here in these photos in a Western headstall, but she looks super cute. I could totally picture her in the 4-H ring or, you know, the ranch pen with a kid on her, just doing her thing. I like her. I might go get her. Probably won't, but I might.
I like her as well. And even though she's a little bit older, in my opinion, I think she is perfect for kids. I'm watching the videos and there's like halfway through her video here, there's a adult on her who's swinging her body all around, doing tricks and everything. And she is just taking it stride by stride. To me, she's a perfect horse to kind of get kids started in the English world. She's got a nice, even like top line. She looks nice and soft. I think she'd be great to start in like low level hunters, no jumping. I wouldn't recommend jumping for her, but I do think she'd be great in the flat and just taking kids around the show ring. And she's got such a striking black color that I think she'd really stand out, especially in some cute braids. So highly recommend her for some easy flat work and maybe just being a lovely kid's horse. Like she could go either way, which is the best thing about her.
She's got a really nice eye too. I'm looking closer at these pictures, and she's just really soft and has a nice inquisitive look to her. So yeah, she's sweet. And I mean, you can't go wrong with a black beauty. Like, you're going to stand out in the show ring, you're going to stand out on the trail. This is a nice little mare. This is going to be a cool horse for somebody.
Absolutely. She's had 163 starts, total earnings of $250,000, just a little bit over. And you can get her for the very absorbent cost of $1,000. Actually, under $1,000. Yeah. So practically free. She looks like a great addition to anyone's program for kids. Make sure to check her out at horseadoption.com. And you can check out all the other horses as well that New Vocations has. There's something for everyone there at horseadoption.com. George, thank you for playing. We appreciate you. And thanks for picking this gem. We hope she gets the perfect home.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Looking for a saddle that's affordable, durable, and comfortable for you and your horse? It sounds like you're looking for a Wintec. Wintec saddles combine world-leading innovations and high-tech materials and lightweight, weatherproof, and easy care saddles. The comprehensive Wintec range offers not only cutting-edge designs, but also reaches new standards in fit, comfort, and performance benefits for both you and your horse. It's easy to see why Wintec is the world's #1 synthetic saddle brand. One of the newest saddles is the Wintec Light All-Purpose Deluxe. Your horse will enjoy the super soft panels which mold in and around his muscles, hugging his unique conformation. The Wintec Light is half the weight and double the fun. With styles for any discipline and conformation, there's a Wintec saddle for you. Visit wintecsaddles.com today to view Wintec's full range of saddles and reach a new level of comfort for you and your horse.
You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on the website at retiredracehorseradio.com. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Retired Racehorse Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. I can be found on Instagram at The Horseback Rider, and you can follow all of my racehorse ranch adventures on Facebook at Jobber Bill, Racehorse to Ranch Horse. My email is kbentley@therrp.org.
I can be found on Instagram at The Foodie Equestrian, where you'll see Astrid and I attempt surviving riding on a daily basis. And my email is joy@horseradionetwork.com. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Kentucky Performance Products, Cashel Company, American Harvest, and Wintec Saddles. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com. Remember to set your goals high and love to learn from every ride.
And add more leg.
Always add more leg. Bye, guys.